Chapter 9 Uncle Far Farfadir dismounts and waves at everyone. "Thank you," he expresses, surveying the crowd, delighted at his arrival. He regards the soiled elves. The situation exhorts his industrial mind. It indulges the significance. "I see your tongues were not harmed. For this we are grateful, but why?" he ponders aloud. "I request an audience with all the captives, if you don't mind. Do attend me, but after you have bathed, eaten proper, been received by your loved ones." He continues politely, with his sagacious eyes meandering over them. Each elf nods, agreeing. Farfadir, unusually brisk, turns from the elves and addresses Jocunum with a brief glance over at Groan. "Jocunum Husami, a hero yet again," he declares in a monotone voice, making it difficult for her to judge his feelings, though she can probably guess at why he wants to have words with her. Jocunum holds herself high and firm. "Just doing my duty," she answers. "Yes," Farfadir replies, holding a sharp smile. "I would like to have private words with you," he says, turning to Groan. "Groan, do accompany us." "I knew you missed my humor," Groan jest, feeling dour, not having Farfadir refer to him as a hero too. Farfadir considers the mode of the assembly gathering fond of thought. He honors them with his glances and gestures. "It is good of you all. Do feel pride in what you have accomplished this day. I am delighted that all has been resolved. I regret the lives lost to the Netinjar. I strive to remedy this in the future. As you might have guessed, I came with the intent to assist. I shall do so by collecting statements at the proper time. I will present all my findings to the council, and we will evaluate the evidence to grasp a better assimilation." "Fine job, Matindu," Farfadir remarks, noting Matindu there watching attentively. Farfadir then turns to the soiled elves. He addresses each separately, collecting and exchanging a word detailing particulars. "Thank you," he announces at last. Farfadir alone turns west with a brisk walk, leaving the assembly of elves. Jocunum and Groan regard each other. "I guess that's up to you," Groan tells Jocunum. Without another word, they both trot along, following Farfadir. No one speaks for the first mile. Groan finally begins to hum. This prompts Jocunum to look suspicious at him. Farfadir picks up the pace, using his staff to brush aside low branches. Jocunum has hers strapped to her back. She mumbles, spying a good-sized fallen branch, when snap comes the sound of a vine slapping her rear end. Groan begins to giggle when a branch whacks him across his shoulder. "Tamada!" Groan exclaims. "What was that for?" "What was what?" Jocunum replies innocently. "Now, children," Farfadir voices, walking even faster. "Keep up." Jocunum and Groan pick up their pace to match Farfadir. Groan, though, is rubbing his shoulders and giving Jocunum an evil glare. "You needed that," Groan mumbles to Jocunum. "Enough," Farfadir insists. A hush falls upon them for some time. Groan becomes restless and begins humming and singing elven songs. This, in turn, causes Jocunum distress, as she distrusts her cousin. She eyes Groan warily, with increased frequency. "Gee," Groan spouts, after some time has lapsed. "I can't remember when we were last together. It's good to finally catch up." Groan's hopeful mode for conversation is met with silence and unturned faces. Undaunted, he continues. "I believe I was 10, and you 11, he reminisces, glancing over at Jocunum. "I recall it was lunch after you took us out of school, Far. You even climbed trees with us." "Has it been so long?" Farfadir asked, now encouraged to speak. He even grants Groan a sideways glance. "Yes," Jocunum agrees, remembering the occasion. Farfadir's face brightens, washing away the gloom pervading his features. "Perhaps it is time to come for dinner," he suggests, smiling. His eyes now oscillate between them. If it's okay with everyone. Our moms won't mind, Jacana blurts out, delighted at the prospect. Her mind has been fixated so long and grown that she sighs a sudden relief with the cheery thoughts. I'll send the bird and let them know, Uncle Far, Groan asserts, watching Jacana. Jacana bounds to Groan in a harsh whisper she speaks. He is not your uncle, he is mine. Groan rushes over to the other side of Farfadet, away from Jacana, making sure to poke out his tongue. So, Uncle Far, now that we are away from everyone, what is it that you have to say? Farfadet's smile fades. There are a few things I need to discuss with you two. In a sudden clash, Jacana realizes where they're headed, back to her sanctum. A pit in her stomach grows, and her head begins to throb as a result. The moment she has put off is now encroaching, and she has not formulated any excuses, reasons for such a violation of conduct. Of course, she cannot ascertain why Groan is in attendance, since she certainly did not divulge any of her activities with him being a menace. Further of a nuisance, her stomach growls and rumbles, making it louder with each step. Immediately, Groan becomes aware. Hurriedly, he speaks, yet with probity. Have Ned and Jars allowed you attendance to their council, if they have a council? Do they have a council? I'm not sure I'd call it a real meeting, Farfadet returns solemnly. Communications are difficult when their language has evolved extensively. Top that off with a spear in our faces the whole duration of conversation. We will have to adjust that punctilio later, however. We speaking in general is a start. I cannot remember this ever being the case. What happened? Groan asked. We met, but before any real talk took place, Farfadet sighs. Fighting erupted. His gaze falls upon Jacana. They were upset that you took a captive, he frowns. Captive? Jacana exclaims, outraged. What about the dozens of... They purloin at night? Her brow furrows, and her pitch increases with raw emotions of her mother horrific drama playing in her mind. Frustration spreads across Farfadet's countenance. Yet he modulates his tone. You are part of the council. Drop your grudges and revenge. I don't care what they've done. This is not about you, not about my sister. This is about peace and uniting the forest once again. Was this not your idea? I was so proud of you that day. Jacana sulks as visions of her mother surface, and the pounding in her chest hastens. She knows logically that he is right. It is earnest stratagem. But they are relentless, dragging off elves, children, underground. Now they have discovered the dragon. Part of her still feels sorry for them, but most of her wants to annihilate them, like the useless Nepal-Tamor. Yes, but how long do we ignore their crimes against our kind? She asked with venom filling her essence. You wanted unity, did you not? Farfadet reminds Jacana. It will take time. We are to be of collective minds. You know this. Do not disrupt things any further. Too late, Jacana considers as the weight on her chest grows heavier with each pervading thought. Now, how is letting them attack us getting any respect from them? We are not letting them attack us. We just aren't planning a siege, Farfadet affirms. Round them all up. Have a good talking to, Groan adds, considering their dilemma. If only. What about traps? Jacana asks, reaching, searching in her mind as well as the woods before them. I'm really good at traps, Groan announces, erecting his head high. I'm not surprised, Jacana mumbles. Locked doors and traps in your tree are not offensive, Farfadet offers. Yes, Groan exclaims, raising his hands like he accomplished an amazing feat. They openly attack us. Our homes, Alpha and Alveil. This is war already. Draconum's voice trembles. If you knew war, you wouldn't want it. We are trying to cease it. Hofdar does not need heroes. It needs a common ground for everyone to agree, to share what is ours. Farfadir remains steady in step and words as they venture into the tight part of the forest. It is secluded and overgrown with few songbirds singing. For some reason, it suddenly feels eerie to Draconum. Perhaps that helmet has gotten to your head, and it made you feel like a warrior, and now you wish to fight your way out of every problem. Draconum keeps pace with firm steps, eyeing him intently. If there were no heroes in war, they would be subjugated, she reasons in her mind. The war is already upon us, whether you like it or not, she says. What if they attack us? Groan intercepts. How then are we to make peace? Self-defense. No one is asking you to let them kill you, Farfadir avers. All right, Groan says, holding up his hands as if in surrender. I just don't know how I am part of this. You are, Farfadir affirms. You took part in the harassment of the Nedenjar, going to the Shukka League and teaching common Hofdarians to read. Groan is stunned. Hey, wait! How did you know I was teaching anybody anything? I could have been fooling. I walked into the Nedenjar part and was drug into the Shukka League thing, unknowing. He eyes Draconum evilly and points to her. You got me in trouble. That's the first, Draconum replies, cocky. Accept your part, Groan, Farfadir tells him, unimpressed with his scheming. What did you learn? Farfadir asks, changing the tone entirely. Nothing, Draconum lies. They are ticklish, Groan confesses, proud of his discovery. Farfadir can't help but smile to himself. Is that so? Yes, Draconum and Groan both answer together. Nevertheless, Draconum's mind is ceaseless. She has been dwelling on the commoner plight since they mention of Groan teaching them to read. She cannot refrain any longer. What gives you the right to treat Lilac and Walnut any different than Silky and Seer? None of you can build, yet you are deemed and treated differently. Is that not against our core beliefs? That we are all the same souls united here? Are we not all the same worth? Why are you combative today? Farfadir responds calmly. My mother was a builder. Builders have always been prized for obvious reasons. Tradition began to encourage the production of builders. If a family line has no history of builders, it would cast out the trait. Eventually, there will be no builders at all. Builders are in my blood, as yours. So you say, Draconum retorts. That theory lacks evidence. How is it that some families just develop the ability without a history of it? And that does not explain why we are hypocrites, allowing only certain members privileges and not others. This has been the collective for centuries. If you try to change things now when we need each other the most, we will lose. You will divide Hofdar. Right or wrong, not everyone will see things as unfair. There will be a resistance, a civil war within a civil war. Is that what you want? No, Draconum rolls her eyes. It is blatantly obvious. I just don't get how they don't see it. If builders are above the commoners, the dragons are above the builders, and I am above you all, Draconum states, folding her arms satisfied. A twisted smile spreads across her face. Well, I can't be ruled by you, Groan announces, nearly laughing. I saw you cry, get bullied, telling me, nope, you can't rule. We continue the wrong for the greater good. That's a bit arrogant. It It's just been decreed that the dragons can't rule. They are cruel and selfish creatures. Farfater contends, staring off ahead with Jacunum's words in his head. Equality can be brought to the council after the hostility has subsided and treaties formed. There is a better way to introduce fairness, he says finally, after a few lengthy steps. Let us keep together. Besides, Groan goes on, not leaving it, I grew up with you. I'm not bowing down to you because you can fly and do magic. You can fly? Farfater stops on the spot. His eyes meet Jacunum. Jacunum is frozen, still confused about her ordeal. It is terrifying to divulge into the prospect of that Storm is manipulating her body without her consent or even knowledge. Groan spouts, yes! At the same time, Jacunum spouts, no! Farfater believes Groan to be the truth-teller in this instant. However, he chooses not to challenge her at this hour. Jacunum, he says. Yes, sir, she answers modestly. Techeyu is your responsibility, Farfater asserts in a Cintonian tone. Yes, she frowns, knowing where he's going. Not Petrichor, not Pluo, not Vinter, not Sumar, Maple, or Leouf, Farfater continues. Yes, I understand, Jacunum returns. Whoa! You never left him with me, Groan complains. Why not? I love you, Groan, Jacunum replies, smirking. Yeah, I'm not sure, but back at ya. Silence grows upon them once more as they get a few yards from the hideout. The area seems quiet. Too quiet. Hello, my name is Deanne Treskeller. I'm an artist, illustrator, writer, and you just heard Uncle Far from Collective Minds, a series of The White Wizard of Hoftar. You can find them at Barnes & Noble and Ingram and at Amazon, paperback or ebook, whatever your preference is. And this is the second book. The first one was Recycled Soul, where we learned that Jacunum Tun, born with Lucicism, was a reincarnation of the dreaded Storm Lord. Being born different, Jacunum is a herald of change to the ancient Haftarians. She is a champion of the people struggling to fit in as she overcomes criticism and odds with who she is. She wears their insults as a badge of honor as a result. Now she just wears white. She is internally combating the inner voice of her ancient old self, the Stormlord. So we will see who wins in the end. I hope you're enjoying this. Please remember, like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and I will continue connecting to you through my stories. I do appreciate comments. If you have any questions, I would like to answer them. And until next time...